My upbringing led to volleyball because when you have an upbringing, you need certain forms of escapism that lead you away from your everyday life. I mean, it's monotonous, not in the good way. Sometimes not in the good way, and sometimes you just rather be anywhere else but there. So I'm born in Brooklyn, Coney Island Hospital. Lived in Coney Island, Cary Gardens. For everyone that's visited New York, that's visited Carroll Gardens, not to be confused. Cary Gardens is this set of projects on 23rd Street that has a group of roaches that cannot be stomped, exterminated, or beat down. So never knew my father. My father left my mom and my older sister with $1. She used that dollar to go on welfare. So, and she basically put herself through undergrad, wound up working as a secretary for a law firm, put herself through law school. Didn't get to see her a lot because of that, and that's okay. I mean, there's a reason why. She's just trying to do the right thing, and so people that know my father now, for the people, that's my stepfather. That's my mom married him at 10.
Okay.
So
when you were 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
But by then we moved to Flatbush. We moved to this house. I mean, it was just, the only thing I remember is that it was just big. We didn't care like the knock on the door was green, like this brass thing was green. We didn't care that Flatbush is, every bit as rough a neighborhood as the projects in Coney Island was. We lived on a cul-de-sac, this quiet block, kind of like a Bill Cosby setup. Like the black family that stays there behind on the block.
Yes.
We
Absolutely.
could pretend to be bad or whatever. Like we know who's about that life and who's not.
Yeah.
because of how we grew up. So.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then 10 years old, my mom remarried, but volleyball became my escapism because I suffered some abuse from my older sister at that time, and then later on my piano teacher. I mean, I don't know how long we're doing this podcast, but
stories for sure.
I was a 3-sport athlete, and then one time I'm in high school and I see this girl from Dominican Republic, like playing volleyball, and she looks cute. And I'm like, just like any other big 3 athlete in New York, it's like, it's volleyball. We don't even call it volleyball, right?
Okay.
How hard could this be, right? So I'm like, I want to play, I got next, and they're just like, okay. So without being too descriptive volleyball-wise, I'll say it like this.
Okay.
You're in a fishing boat, right? You catch a big freaking flounder. Right, you take the flounder and you put it on the deck, and you just watch the flounder just flap, gasping for air because the flounder looks like it knows what it's doing.
Yeah.
That was me. Like retrospectively, that's how I felt. It was just so embarrassing. Everybody watching this fish,
but you gotta start somewhere,
thinking that it's swimming. I'm fine.
So but you were hooked.
Yeah. I was slightly out of shape, slightly overweight. Football got me that way.
Yeah.
I was 250 back then. I was playing a little tight end, and so I bought a book written by Doug Beal.
Yes.
It's called American Volleyball Coaches Association Handbook.
Yeah.
And I coached myself. I bought this ball that I thought was real. It's a plastic ball. And in my backyard in the snow, just passing to myself, setting to myself, learned the 4-step approach. I mean, if you go back to my house where, it's already sold, but I can metaphorically still see the fingerprints on the ceiling, like it's 10 feet high. And then, I go from fingertip to like my whole palm. And I'm like, can I do an elbow? Nope, I can't do that. I'm not that black, right? Mixed parents, of course. My mom's African American. My mom's black. I came. For all of my friends who are close to me, they know that I identify more with being black than I do white.
Okay.
So it's so weird for some of my white friends to be like, why are you talking like that? My gym teacher's like, I don't ever want to hear you talk like that again, So yeah, bought a book. A year later, people noticed me and started playing in tournaments. 3.5 years later, I was playing professionally.
Wow.
I was what you would call a super athlete. I'm only 6'1", but my wingspan is 6'8".
Okay. Oh.
So I was able to block, long arms. I had big sure hands, volleyball hands.
Yep.
Like that.
So you were an outside hitter?
I was an outside hitter.
Yeah.
I was in the Army at the time, and I was playing for a military community team.
Okay.
and I tried out for the Army team. And then when I was trying out for that team, a club team in Germany scouted me out.
Okay.
And the Army actually released me 5 months out of the year to play volleyball. This is 1992 and 1993.
Okay, and how old were you then?
22 and
Okay.
going on 23, 21, 22, 23. I served from 90 to 93
Okay.
as a generator mechanic.
Wow.
Yeah. First Gulf War.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you go overseas?
No, but I joined to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, back then.
What was that sense of? Was it a sense of duty? Was it?
Yeah. It's duty, fear, apprehension. I like all of those things. Like, look, back then when you joined the Army, you watched a lot of G.I. Joe, and you saw like these good guys protecting people that couldn't protect themselves from the bad guys. So I've always had that thing. So when like Desert Storm happened, I had already signed up when Desert Storms happened, and my mom was like, "Are you sure this is the time where you know it's the volunteer army? You could change your mind." And I'm like, "Nah, I signed up. I want to do this." So 2 weeks before I graduated AIT, it's Advanced Individual Training. That's what you do post boot camp to learn about your job: generators, electronic repair, small engine repair, electronic maintenance, blah blah blah. So 2 weeks before that, ceasefire.
Okay.
Wound up reassigned the whole class to Germany. Went to Kuwait for like 2-3 weeks. Went to Italy. Went to Switzerland. Went to Euro Disney in France. I think I must have hit up like 16 countries when I was there. It was just Morocco. It was just very, very important for me to not stay in the barracks like a lump.
Right, and the travel gives you like such a perspective on different ways of life and the way that. So.
And at the same time, the Army seemed like my way out.
Okay.
Where I was in Brooklyn. I mean, I was in an.
What were you escaping?
I was escaping oppression, complacency. How's that for a term?
That's a term. That's good. Yeah.
I
Explain
mean,
that one.
Again, before I even hit puberty, I was sexually abused by my older sister, right? And my aunt knew about it. So, oppression, complacency, like it's pretty unique term. It's basically you're in this situation where you've already accepted there's no way out, and you're good with it. That's oppression, complacency. It's almost a redundant term, right? Because oppression, the whole premise of being oppressed is to be okay with it. There doesn't seem they don't provide a means of telling you there's an escape. And in my neighborhood, the army kind of seemed like a way out. I was a straight A student, and then when this thing with my piano teacher happened, all of my grades dropped. My parents were delighted I even passed. I just was failing every class. So.
And your parents knew about both?
I told my mom, and she basically accused me of lying because she thought I didn't want to play piano. I told my stepfather, but my stepfather, in situations like this, always felt outranked, and it was like, this is really a question for you and your mom or whatever, and this and that, unless you're sure. If you're sure, he's like, am I allowed to curse on this?
Yeah.
He's like, if you're sure, tell me you're sure, and I'll fuck him up. And I was like, no. Yeah. My father, big, old school iron worker, German guy.
Okay.
The guy that teaches you how to be a man.
Yeah.
There's certain, like women raising you can show you how to treat a lady, but how to be a gentleman, you really need someone like that in your life. Yeah. Old school, hold the chair for a woman, just what they call sexist today, I call polite.
See, and this is the beautiful thing about you, because there's so much in the in-between now, right? We're in this cancel culture and these times where you're all one thing or all the other, and the thing about you is that you see both sides of so much, and come down the middle, and no one can peg you, and I'm so with you on that. The chivalry and the concept of men and women working together instead of being against each other, right? Yeah. Or like one can't be strong without the other. Why can't we both be strong? Yeah. Together, and we are stronger together. So he sounds like he set a really good example, and he was, as far as I'm concerned, he's my father. When my biological didn't bother,
He was my father. My first job actually was ironwork. We had a side business. He was the foreman of the American Ironworks department before they got rid of it. American were famous for locksmiths, but they had carpentry, glass, and ironwork. So he was the foreman of the ironworks department. So as a side gig, Friday and Saturday, mobile weld. We incorporated our own business, and we would build security gates for windows. If you go to 72nd Street from Central Park all the way to the river, like these little fences surrounding the trees. My father and I did all of those. So it's like every time I go back to New York, I'm like, we did that. So
that sense of hard work. It's really hard to get in today's society, and that's the difference between what I see with you and even the way you've put the option together. I mean, you set a goal, and I watched you, and you just took away at where you're headed.
I think I can say the same about you. I think like people not being able to peg you or label you into a different category. Like we've had a lot of discussions on a social level. We've had a lot of discussions on a political level, and we've had a lot of discussions on even on a heightened mature level of other subject matter, which not everybody's business, right? Because sometimes we got to be a ship that doesn't reach a port, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's what magnetizes us towards each other, and I think I speak for a lot of people. I just had a conversation with 2 or 3 people just today, and someone as early as this morning about how polarizing that kind of figure is. So basically my academia fell. And when my academia fell, I just started getting punished. I just started getting grounded until my grades got better. My grades never got better, right? And then I was getting bullied at school by this Russian kid, and bear with me on this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And basically, the guy was punking me like every time, and I was kind of a mama's boy, one of those guys that like hugged up on his mom's leg. Like my father boxed Golden Gloves, so he taught me how to use my hands. But when you're 250, if you feel like if you use your hands, you're gonna hurt somebody. So sometimes I'm just scared of hurting somebody, and sometimes I'm just scared of fighting. But this is back then, which of course the Army knocked out. I don't fear dying. I don't fear. The only thing I fear right now is living. Everyone dies. Not everyone really lives. To quote Braveheart. So not every man truly lives. But so one day, it was his friend that punched me in front of a girl that liked me, right? So what happened was I just ran away because he punched me when I turned my back, which is, to me, is kind of a punk move. So and I walked down the stairs in the hallway, and then I stopped. And then without telling you what I was thinking, I'll just give you the physical. I stopped. I turned around. I walked right back up the hallway stairs. I walked right back to the locker room. And he looked at me like, what? And I grabbed him by the neck, the throat, with both hands. He punched me in my face twice, which I didn't feel, because all I could see was red. And all I could see was him turning purple. It was, picture Lord of the Rings when Sméagol's trying to choke out like Frodo. Like, ah! It was one of those things where I don't even remember people trying to yank me off or this or that. I almost choked the life out of this kid. So, and then like the next morning, I was cutting class. I left school early, which was good for me because if I left class on time, there were like 30 Russian kids like waiting for me at the train station. This is Bay 50th Street in Brooklyn. I went to John Dewey High School, which is very mixed. You got the Cousins or the Guidos, as outside that circle call them, but in that circle they're called Cousins. African Americans that were from Flatbush that were taking the train there. Good Asian population, but a huge compilation of Russian Jews. And I stopped going to school. I would go to Faber Sportland, which is an arcade near Astroland Park, and I would play video games all day. I never went to school until finally a truant officer, finally, told my parents,
I was going to say, so at some point your parents figured out what was going on.
I got kicked out of the house. I was sleeping on trains for almost 6 months, and even then, I'm still trying to find a way to be resilient. I got a job closing up for McDonald's. So basically, McDonald's closes 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd ride the trains until I got early, and then I'd find some place to sleep. And then whatever. So, And I was trying to get enough money to get like an apartment. And then what happened is like somewhere in the 4th month, there's no bank accounts, there's no internet back then. So I just have a wad of cash in my pocket. So I fall asleep and I found out someone took a razor blade, cut my pocket, a hole in my pocket, and just slid the cash out, like slid the wallet out. The clothes I had that I was packing, all those clothes are gone. So,
you woke up.
Yeah, no cash. No, nothing. I was just, it's.
I mean, that has to be. Was that rock bottom?
It was rock bottom, and it was the military. Like, I just went to this guy was asking me, these guys, the Marines actually were like recruiting people, and I'm like, sure, I'm interested, and they're like, sure, what's your home address? And I'm like, I don't have one. They're like, we can't recruit you without a home address, and I'm like, so someone that doesn't have a home that really wants to be a Marine can't join the Marines because he doesn't have a home. Guy's looking for a home. Yeah. So I was actually going to join the Marines, and then my parents agreed to let me back in to stay until I joined, and then the Army offered me a better deal for college fund and this and that. So, and they're like, look, if you get 15 college credits, you get the GI Bill, this college fund, and this. So I went to BMCC. I got 15 college credits, and then, and then joined the Army, so, but,
So what do you think it was inside of you at that point? Like, did you ever have a point where you're like, I'm giving up? Like, I can't.
Not one point. Not one point. Even when I was homeless, I was trying to find a way to get an apartment, I grew up in a deeply religious family, which is ironic, right? Because it's always religious families that are the ones that say they open you with open arms, but at the same time they cast you out when you don't see their way. So,
yeah, I like to dig in. Yeah. There's a lot of religion. There's a lot of judgment and shame, in my opinion. Faith. There's a big difference between faith and religion, and it sounds 100%. Like
like my
faith is what gets you through.
Yeah, look, my faith is still strong. I still believe in God. I still believe in most of what the Bible says as far as the teachings of Jesus and this and that. I think a lot of it's metaphoric because you have to sensationalize some stories for people to remember it, like David and Goliath, right? Like if you said Goliath was only 7 feet tall, nobody cares, right? But if you say he's 15 feet tall, everyone's going to remember that. So I do think that some stories have to be sensationalized for it to be told and remembered and revered.
More figurative.
And for me, that's okay, acceptable lie, whatever. But like Jimmy Swaggart dressing up in a tutu and hiring prostitutes shouldn't ruin your faith, and whatever. I mean, if you're leaving Christianity because of him, then your faith was misplaced to begin with.
For sure.
And I think the reason why is I never made it about me. I always try to make it about what I could do for someone else,
Right there, you are hitting on exactly what makes an excellent coach.
Yeah, it was always about what I could do for someone else. Like even like McDonald's is not the best job in the world. I mean, I'm 17 years old, but it's okay. And I'm closing for them, so you have some independence because it's not crowded.
Right.
No one's coming to. I mean, the one that comes to McDonald's for a Big Mac at midnight, they're a little bit drunk, but you know what? They're okay. Yo, put some more cheese on this. And half the time, when they closed, I would take all the food they're gonna throw out. I put in, and I grabbed like 3 big bags. And a friend of mine, I would ride the train with him. I'm like, I'll ride home with you or whatever. He's like, you sure? I'm like, because he didn't know I was homeless. And we would find people sleeping on the train and just like put bags of food. We'd put bags of food by them. And we'd always like to look. I don't know if that's the selfish part of me, but we'd like to look to see if they woke up. So we're looking through the train car and this guy wakes up and he's like,
take that.
He's like, just kind of. So I worked prison ministries. I was a very good voice. I sang choir for Coney Island Gospel Assembly. So, because of my mixed culture, I was kind of set up as an outsider from the beginning. I was never really one of them. So what I did was I joined something called the prison ministries, which only the men were allowed, and you had to be 18. But I was 16. I was doing that when I was 16. We go to Rikers Island. And we go to Brooklyn House of Detention, and we would talk to certain inmates. If you want to talk about sports, let's talk about sports. You want to talk about why being in here is not a good fucking idea? Yeah, let's. You want to talk about Jesus? Hey, got my Bible. I'm all there. So, You know, so I always, it's so weird because I'm jumping back to the present, but I always cast aspersions when people are like, oh, you know, I'm doing my part for society. Oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm whatever. And I'm like, you know, symbolism's good because if that's the best you can do to show that you support somebody, that's fine. But activism is another thing. You know, how many people like out here that say they're Christians or whatever, and I'm like, when was the last time you visited a prison? When was the last time you went to like a kid's school that didn't have everything the rich kids' schools had? When was the last time that you've done any of these things? So, and I'm not casting any aspersions on them. I'm just saying that if you're a symbol person supporter, don't come off that like you're an activist. Yeah. You know, right now I'm not an activist. Back then, you know, I felt like I did it to last two lifetimes. 5 o'clock in the morning, Rikers Island. Christmas time, the whole choir comes. We sing Christmas carols. Thanksgiving, the whole choir comes. You know, because they have chapel services, and we would go. It was Coney Island Gospel Assembly. That's in Brooklyn, and that was a form of escapism for me because it's weird. Because every time I dealt with people, people let you down. The people that I trust the most, the people that I love the most. So. You know, and the reason why I'm even telling you all this right now is because people see who I am now, and they see I got my stuff together. They see I'm happy. They see I'm like this not a type A personality, but definitely an alpha. Yes. Someone that if you don't respect, it's someone you fear because they're like, all right, I respect that guy, but that guy, I'd like to sass him, but he looks crazy. So I'm one of those two categories. But I guess the reason why I'm saying this is because there are people who are hurting the people that don't seem like there's a lot of hope. There's people that California is very easy to get stuck in the validation game where if you start, the more you embrace your self-importance just to feel like you belong, the more you become what you despise. Which is a whole nother subject. So it's the reason why I'm talking a lot and I had to give you more of a backstory. So basically, you know, Coney Island, Flatbush Avenue, I knew who was about that life, keep my behind on the block, had friends that were about that life. Abuse from my family, bullied at school, being half black, half white. Go to an all-white school, they don't want to touch you because you turn black. Go to an all-black school, you think black people got time to dice up their white people? No, they don't. You're a cracker. So a lot of times running from my life from school to my house until, you know, Flatbush, I'm still the new kid. People had to know me and they're like, finally, you know, he's not white. He's just a light-skinned brother, you know, so. But like Barack Obama, I read his book, a huge identity crisis, you know. I mean, it was like, I wished I was just one or the other. And I think God made me this way because if I was one or the other, I'd probably be a racist, you know. I'd probably be so bitter towards one or the other, you know. I think God made me come out of the womb of a black woman to appreciate, this neighborhood. We're almost to a point where I identify with being black. So all of this circles the wagons to the ultimate form of escapism, volleyball. Had a crush on the girl, now I got a crush on this sport, and she ain't going nowhere.